Hello everyone. Today I am going to discuss a new topic, thread. It's the most important topic in multithreading. It's not like a API concept that every time I have to write a class, we have to call the method and just simply execute the program. We have to take care of every part. It's basically multithreading is basically it's a language level concept. So each and every area of the code we have to take care of that. We need to think about that, what is the exact we want, exact output we want. Based on that we have to write some code so that we can get the our desired output. So in this topic, in this chapter, I will cover the introduction of thread, the basic concept of multithreading. In this part I will cover the concept of multithreading, the way to define a thread. We can define a thread by two approach. One of the approach is by extending the thread class, and second approach is by implementing runnable interface. So which one is the best, which approach we will use, we will discuss in details when we discuss this topic. Then how to give the name of a thread. So getting and setting the name of the thread. So how can get the name of the thread, how can set the name of the thread. So we will discuss, and we will set some priority based on priority. So thread priority is one of the important topic. Then we will cover the method to prevent the thread execution. There are several methods which is used to prevent the thread execution, normal thread execution. Join, yield, sleep, these are the very common methods which are used to prevent thread execution. And synchronization, after that I will cover synchronization, very important topic of threading, very important, very important topic is synchronization. Then we will cover inter-thread communication, that means how two thread will be communicate internally. And then we will talk about thread deadlock, what does mean the deadlock and when it will deadlock will be happen. So all these things will be covered in this chapter. So let us start with the concept of thread. So thread is nothing it means two different things. An instance, first one we can say that the instance of class java dot lang dot thread, and we can say second one a thread of execution. Thread of execution. So what does mean thread? Somebody said that it's a lightweight process, thread is nothing like that. So before going into the definition what does mean thread, I will discuss about the topic. So that is called multitasking. This concept is required to differentiate what does mean the multitasking, what does mean the multi-threading. So this concept is very important, and we can say that multitasking means executing multiple tasks simultaneously. So multitasking, in a single sentence we can say that executing multiple tasks simultaneously. So, executing multiple tasks simultaneously, it is called multitasking. So, if I think a student, a classroom student is the best example of multitasking. Why? Because think about that, a student in the classroom listening to the class, it may be listening to the class, taking running note, so taking some note, at a time he is checking his mobile phone. Most of the students will see in our class that sometimes student look at the board, looking at the board, and at a time he is listening something, was listening lecture, someone is at a time he also doing. The best example of multitasking in our day to day life, a student in the class or classroom, at a time he is doing several tasks. For example, he is listening the class, at a time he is taking running note, sometimes in between he is checking his mobile phone for WhatsApp, and some of the student it may be that checking some or observing some environment, just like someone is passing in front of the classroom gate and somebody looking at what is happening outside, somebody is doing some other work also. So that means a student is in the classroom doing several work, several tasks he is doing at a time. So what does mean the multitasking? Multitasking means multiple tasks, executing multiple tasks simultaneously. So student is doing simultaneously 2 or 3, 4, 5 tasks simultaneously in the classroom. So what does mean actually? Multitasking is divided into two. The concept of multitasking divided into two categories. One is called process based multitasking, another one is called, the second one is called thread based multitasking. So we know that multitasking means executing several tasks simultaneously. Let's take an example. Suppose a student typing a Java programming editor. At a time he is listening song. So first on typing a Java programming editor, Java program in editor. Second thing is listening audio song. At a time he is downloading some file from the internet. So downloading. So look at this, there are several tasks he is doing at a time. So typing a Java program, listening audio song, at a time he is downloading some file from the internet. So each of the, now look at this, each of the tasks is independent. Each of the tasks is independent, and those tasks are doing at a time. So if uh, if listening audio song is this task is not depend on the typing a Java program. So this is a separate task, this is also a separate task, and this is also a separate task. So both three tasks are doing simultaneously, but both tasks are not depend with each other. So first task is not depend with second one, second task is not related to the third task. So both three tasks are independent each other. So we can say that each of the tasks is assigned by some process. So this is my one of my process, this is another of this process, this is another process. So we have a, in this example we have a three process, but three process is independent to each other. So it's called process based multitasking. So process based multitasking means executing several tasks simultaneously, where each task separate independent process, or you can say it's a program. So typing a Java program in the editor is a one of the process, listening audio song is one of the process, downloading a file from the internet, that is also another process. So there are three processes, though those processes are not related to each other, they are independent. And if this type of situation is called, by this type of tasking executing simultaneously operation is called, or task is called process based multitasking. Now if I think we have a suppose we have a 10,000 line of code, okay, or you can think we have a 50,000 line of code of an application. So for example, if I think this 25,000 number of code is executed one by one, then we have a another 25,000 line of code executing one by one. So we have a 25,000 line, here also we have a 25,000 line. So if I want to execute this application, the program will be executed line by line, okay. So suppose this code, part of the code is regarding to customer 1 and this part of the code will be regarding to customer 2. So this part of the code is not depend on the second part of the code. If I want to execute this program, it will take, for example, it will take 3 hours or 6 hours or 3 hours. For example, 3 hours it is taking to execute 10,000 line of code, 50,000 line of code. Suppose if I analyze this program, that first part, first 25,000 line is not depend on the second 25,000 of line of code. So if I do those tasks in simultaneously, that means if I want to execute the first part, first 25,000 line in some, by using some thread, here also at a time, if I do simultaneously second 25,000 code with some other thread. So I am coming the concept of thread. So what will happen? It will take at least 2 hours or at most 2 hours. So time is taking compared to the previous one is very less. So that means at a time you are executing or simultaneously you are executing several tasks. So if I think this part of the code is for customer 1, this part of the code is for customer 2, and the customer 1 code is not depend on the customer 2 and customer 2 is not depend to the customer 1. So in this respect we can execute the code simultaneously, so that we can get the efficient output, or we can reduce the time of execution of whole program. So this type of concept, that means this part of the program will take care by someone, that is called thread. So this part of the code will be executed by thread 1, and this part of the code will be executed by thread 2. So, what does mean? So what does mean right now thread? So, thread based, so this type of multitasking is best thread based multitasking. This type of multitasking is called thread based multitasking. So, where each task separate independent or some program. So, we have only one program here. So, one program, but the program is divided into two parts. One of the part is take care of one thread, another part is take care of another thread, where each individual task is called thread. This task is called thread. So, performed by one thread, this task is performed by another thread. So, now look at this, the differentiated multitasking is concept is divided into two categories. One is called process based multitasking, another is called thread based multitasking. We know that process based multitasking, each of the program is non-dependent each other. Okay. So, first program or first process is not depend on the second program is not depend on the third program. So, in process based multitasking we have a several program. So, number of program is more than one, but when we talking about the thread based multitasking, so we have only one program, and that program is divided into number of part, and each of the part is taken care by some thread. So, process based multitasking is related to our operating system. So, we do not bother about it, because how the one of the program will be executed one by another, or they will perform simultaneously, that depend on the operating system, because we do not care about the process based multitasking. We will take care of the thread based multitasking as a programming concept. So, that means we will write a code, or we will take care of our Java programming code, so that we can execute the process, execute the program in such a way that we can reduce the processor idle time, or you can say so that we can increase the performance of the system. So, actually this is the most important or main important purpose of multithreading. So, main important purpose of multithreading is to reduce the processor idle time, so that we can increase the performance of the system. So, multitasking concept is right now I think clear. If you do not understand, I am just giving another example, real life example, so you can understand what does mean the multitasking. Multitasking means executing multiple tasks simultaneously. For example, suppose we have we are watching a movie. So, in that movie we have for example 70 mm screen. So, we are watching some movie, and we have a 1, 2, 3, 4. So, we have a 4 people here, where one people is called Sumon, another people is called Bikash, Sumana, Rita, whatever. So, 4 people are dancing. At a time, some bird are flying, and some one of the airplane is flying, and simultaneously rain is falling down. Okay. So, look at the example. If I do not think as a multi-threading, so that means more than one thread is performing a specific task for the particular task. Here is only one task, but this task is divided into a multiple section or multiple part, and each of the part will take care by the one of the thread. Suppose if I do not think as a multi-threading, if I want to implement this type of operation, movie operation in a static way. So, first for example, Sumon is dancing. So all the remaining part of the skin, so that means Bika, Sumona, Rita, Bart, airplane, it will be static condition. Only one person is dancing. So after 20 minutes, for example, after 5 minutes, the person task is complete. Then the next task is Vikas is dancing. So then after 3 minutes, Sumona is dancing. So when one of the tasks is doing, remaining other tasks is static condition. So in this way, suppose but and after completing all those things, all those people complete their tasks, the birds is going to fly from one skin to, in this way, end of the skin. So only one bird is taking, for example, 5 seconds. So similarly, suppose we have a 200 birds. So 200, the next bird will move from in this part to this part, then this part to this part, from right hand corner of the skin to the left hand corner of the skin, and after that plane flying, and then one drop of water falling down, rain falling down, then second drop of water falling down. So it will take too much time to implement this kind of application. But if I use multi-threading concept, if I use the multi-threading concept, that there are several tasks. So dancing, flying birds, flying aeroplanes, falling, rain is falling. So there rain is falling down. So many tasks, if I want to concurrently execute, so multi-threading is the best way in programmatically to implement this type of application. So what is the application of multi-threading? So main application of multi-threading, we can see that we can develop multimedia graphics, we can also develop animation, we can also develop video game. Such type of video game is the frequently we are just using. And if I think in our, we have a web application. Suppose we have a web application. So web application, or so we have a server, we have a web application, and we have a server also. So someone is requesting, so first customer or first client is request to access this web application. Similarly, another one is request to web application. If I perform the tasks one by one, so the request has to be performed, is going to slow down this process. So that means after response to one client, then it will start responding the second client, the server will respond to the second client, server will respond to the third client. In this way, the application will be, web application will be very slow and it is useless. So what will happen if I implement, actually internally all the server is a multi-threading concept, or implement by using multi-threading. So at a time, for example, in server we have a 50 or 60 thread, for example. So at a time it can handle 50 or 60 requests, so that it can reduce the time of response to the client. So if one of the request is come to the server will assign a thread, and that particular request is handled by the particular that thread. Then again request is coming, at a time so many request is coming, and one of the thread is assigned to this handle the particular request. That is one of the important first. So we have seen that multi-threading is related to our programming implementation. So programmatically, how can I reduce the time of the processor, so that we can implement the performance of the system, that we can so simultaneously we can execute 2 or more part of the program to utilize the maximum CPU time. And threads are lightweight sub-process. They share common memory space. In multithreading environment, programs that are benefited from the multithreading utilize the maximum CPU time, so that ideal time can be kept to the minimum. So that's all about the multithreading concept. I think let's conclude with this topic, that what does mean the multithreading and what does mean thread. So first we know that thread is a process, lightweight process. So that means in thread based multitasking, where each task separate independent of the same program, not different program, same program, and where each individual task is taken care by thread. But where process based multitasking, which is related to our operating system, there are several programs, more than one program. So that's all about the multithreading. Thank you.